Okay, you're ready to go.
Great. Welcome, everyone, and good evening. Welcome to the Parks and Community Services Commission meeting for February 9th, 2022. Christy, will you lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance, please? And do you have any announcements that you'd like to make first?
Nope, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance and then we'll do our roll call. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And then now, if you want, I can go right into roll call if you'd like.
Please do. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you. Before I take roll, let me note for the record, Assembly Bill 361 suspends certain provisions of the Brown Act, allowing public meetings like this one to be held by teleconference to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. At this time, I will conduct roll call and afterward confirm certain matters for the record. Commissioner Dorlick, Commissioner Breed, Commissioner Mitra, Commissioner Lopez Lucy,
Present.
Commissioner Ellicott Pesic,
Present.
Student Commissioner Thenamala, Vice Chair Keniston Lee,
Here.
Chair Osling.
Present.
Thank you. Me over here. Based on the responses to the roll call, the record should reflect that all committee members can hear the proceedings clearly. Seeing no objection, I will turn the meeting back over to the chair with a reminder that all votes must be taken by roll call. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Christy. Item 4, special items and announcements. 4.1, we have a new Parks and Community Services employee, Tommy Kang, and he will be introduced and presented by Adam Chow.
Good evening. We're going to bring Tommy in here so you can be able to see him as we're not able to introduce him personally, but hopefully you have been able to stop by the community center. Maybe you've been able to see him so far. So we'll wait for you to be able to
trying
jump
to
in.
promote him. 1 second here.
Make sure we put a face to the name, of course.
There, he's coming in now. Thank you.
Fabulous. All right, Tommy, we'll get you turn your camera on.
All right.
There he is. There's Tommy. Fabulous. Well,
Hello. Good evening, everybody.
Perfect.
Hi.
Yes, absolutely. So good evening, commissioners. We wanted to introduce our newest office technician to you. This is Tommy Kang. You see his head here this evening. You can visit him in person at one of the community centers or the senior center sometime soon. But I just wanted to make sure that you guys were able to put a face with the name, and also want to give you a little introduction, a little background about Tommy as well, and where he comes from as he joins our department here. So Tommy is a graduate from San Jose State. He has a bachelor's degree in radio, television, and broadcasting, and has a fantastic radio voice. So if you ever need anything for an MC, he'd probably be a great guy for you to do that. He spent a lot of time behind the scenes in multimedia broadcasting and production before he successfully transitioned over into the human resources field. So he's got a little variety of background. In 2015, he found his way into the public sector with a short stint at the Santa Clara Valley Water District. After that, he ended up working for the city of San Jose for the last 5 years, where he performed administrative customer service duties for the Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement Division. We are happy to have Tommy join us on our team over here in San Ramon. He is working at the front counters, as I had mentioned, doing customer service roles as an office technician. So he started off at the San Ramon Community Center, where he was able to get a lot of hands-on learning at that community center, and has been working also at the El Costa Senior Community Center most recently. And is going to get a couple stints over at the San Ramon Olympic Pool coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So Tommy's been making his rounds around the front counters, learning all the operations. He's been here for several months now, learning everything. We're excited for him and the things that he's been able to do. And hopefully he'll be able to continue to provide a lot of his expertise and a different perspective to our front counter. So we appreciate him joining our team. And this is Tommy Kang.
Great. Welcome, Tommy, to the team, and it's nice to see you in person. Well, not in person, but you're a little square here, so now we know your face, and hope to see you around at some of the centers. Welcome aboard.
All right, thank you. I look forward to eventually meeting all of you in person, and looking forward to work with you in the days, weeks, and years to come.
Great. Likewise. Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Tommy. Moving on to item 4.2, temporary employee of the month for January. We are going to receive a presentation from Edwin C., Recreation Coordinator, and he will introduce Hannah Sims.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here again. I'm here to introduce Hannah Sims. Would you mind promoting her in? Okay, there is Hannah. I am proud to present to you Hannah Sims, the January Temporary Employee of the Month. Hannah joined us in August of 2021 as Assistant Activity Manager. She is currently working at Windermere Ranch Teen Center. Besides working at the Teen Center, she helps me around doing other stuff such as the Teen Job Fair or summer teen camps planning regarding that. She graduated from Sacramento State in 2020 with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Parks, Recreation, Tourism, Administration with a focus on community recreation. She has been very great with the kids here at the Windermere Teen Center. We're nominating her because I've been getting a lot of feedback from the kids and also the parents about such a great job that Hannah has been doing at the Teen Center. She's very friendly, cheerful. She, greets the kids. When first person to see at the Teen Center and the last person to leave. She's doing a lot of different activities, such as teaching them how to plant succulents over the holidays. Growing those seeds physically and also mentally, as you can see. Regarding that, Hannah is like one of the many employees that we have here at the community center, helping the community out.
Congratulations, Hannah.
Thank you.
It's really wonderful news. Thank you very much for your introduction. Would you like to say a few words, Hannah?
Yeah, I would. I would just like to say it's just such an honor to be selected as part-time employee of the month. I really appreciate it. And I also just want to do a huge shout out to my boss, Edwin, for teaching me and being so open with his knowledge. And it makes it to where I really look forward to coming to work for the city of San Ramon. I've really enjoyed my time here. So thank you guys.
Oh, that's really, really, really nice. And, I just want to also say congratulations to your recent college graduation, and finding a position in the field is really to be commended. Sometimes it can take a while. So congratulations to you around that as well. And obviously you're getting a lot of wonderful feedback from parents and your colleagues around the work and the kids. About your work ethic and how you interact with others. So congratulations. Would any of the other commissioners like to say a few words? Heidi, Vice Chair Keniston Lee.
That's okay. I just want to say, I do think that it's a feather in your cap that you're getting compliments both from the kids and the parents. That's a trick, to get compliments from both sides. And from a city perspective, I am really proud that we are vying for folks who have chosen parks and recreation as their career. So Kathy, you and your team must be doing something right, which we knew all along, because it's important that we can get folks who've chosen this as a career to work in our community and who are devoted to that field, because we know it's so critical to healthy communities. So kudos to you guys for getting good folks over here.
Thank you guys.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
Well, I've had the opportunity to meet Hannah in person because she is on the Teen Job Fair working with us. And so it was a pleasure meeting her, and she just chimed right in and was very pleasant. So I'm really happy for you. And it was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting you too. Thank you.
And Commissioner Ellicott Pesic.
I just wanted to do a quick shout out as an alumni of CSU Sacramento. I graduated with a degree, Bachelor of Science in criminology. And one of my favorite classes that I had to take as part of the breadth requirement was recreation and leisure leisure studies class.
Oh, I took that as well. That's a great class.
It's such a great class. We had to do the whole ropes course and all kinds of things. And at the time, I really didn't get why I had to take this class. But as I took it, I really, really appreciated that breadth requirement and exposing me to something that I might not have looked at in the same way. So I've never met a major in that from there. And so I'm super excited. And I'm sure you were very well prepared coming from there. So,
thank you.
Great. Again, Hannah, congratulations.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Item 4.3, special announcements. Do we have any special announcements, Kathy?
We always have a few special announcements. So one of the things I have to announce, and I know you'll probably hear more about it later, but I'm just so excited. Our teen council now has their very own Instagram. So make sure you follow San Ramon Teen Council so you can get all the updated posts. So this is an exciting bit of news that they were waiting for a long time. So I wanted to make sure and announce it at the beginning so anybody else watching might write down San Ramon Teen Council on Instagram. Also, we've got a couple of meetings coming up, so I wanted to alert you. Christy's going to be reaching out to schedule a facilities committee meeting at the end of the month. That will be to look at the BR6 park before it comes to the full commission next month. And in addition to that, as I mentioned last month, we are going to be having a second commission meeting this month. We've just got a few too many pieces that we need to get through. And so please mark your calendars for February 23rd at 7 p.m. And again, we'll be getting that out to you, but I wanted to make sure everybody had that on their calendars. And then lastly, on those kinds of announcements, our new Commissioner Breed has expressed interest in doing facility tours. Some of you who have been around for a little while might remember that it was probably 3 or 4 years ago. We did 1 or 2 facilities before every commission meeting for several months. And so Christy also will be reaching out after this meeting just to confirm if there are other commissioners who are interested. And if there are, then we will agendize and post those. If it's just Steve, then we can schedule those separately. But I thought we might want to offer it to everyone again, because it is a nice opportunity to walk around with the facility supervisors or program supervisors and get a little closer look at some of the facilities you may not visit on a regular basis. And then lastly, a few upcoming events. The event season is coming. So our Friday foreign films are kicking off on Friday. So don't miss Pain and Glory or on 2/11 or The Innocents on 2/25. That's now being done by our San Ramon Arts Foundation. So we're pretty excited about that. This Saturday, we have open space through the lens of a photographer. So rather than our normal open space hikes, this is going to be one up at the Doherty Station Community Center. So we'll have a photographer out there to talk about how to take good nature photography. That's from 9 to 10. The Purple Experience is our first real big show again in 2022. That's a Prince tribute at DevPAC on Sunday, February 27th. And then you kind of already heard about it. The Teen Job and Career Fair is coming up on March 5th. So quite a few different things happening, and hopefully you'll be able to attend them all or some. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. I've already signed up for a couple of them. Great. All right. Item 5, public comment or written communication. At this time, those in the audience are encouraged to address the Parks and Community Services Commission on any item not already included in tonight's agenda. Members of the public who are participating via Zoom will have the opportunity to make comments to the commission live through the Zoom application. Comments should not exceed 3 minutes. Do we have anyone in the audience, Christy?
We have 9 in the audience, and we do have 1 with their hand up. But before we start public comment, I would like to remind all speakers the following guidelines for participation in this meeting. The chair may briefly interrupt your testimony in order to encourage compliance with these guidelines. So when you are speaking, It is important to keep these in mind. No profanity or obscenity. Refrain from personal threats or attacks. Respect all people. Refrain from hateful labeling and demeaning language based on hate of a person's race, religion, sexual orientation, ethnicity, gender, or disability. Respect all people that are present or watching. The chair, at their discretion, may remove any speaker from continuing public comment for the duration of the meeting for any of the following reasons: exceeding the allotted time to speak, yelling, screaming, or other behavior that renders the commission unable to continue, excessive profanity or slander, specific threats or fighting words that incite violence, speech that is outside the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission or the specific agenda item in which we're speaking. Thank you for listening to these guidelines. I will now bring in the speaker.
Hello.
One moment here. Okay, you're able to speak. Please state your name and then you may speak.
That wasn't me. I just got let in, okay? So I don't want the commissioner president to think that I was the one who was stalling. I just want the commissioners to know that the public wasn't able to access the agenda properly. The link that was sent to the public goes straight to your website. It has all the information and rules that was repeated for about, 50 minutes just now, that, how we need to stay away from profanity, blah, blah, blah. But I still don't know what the agenda is. So please kindly make sure your agenda link is accessible by the public. My question and also comment for the Parks and Community is February is actually a big month for Americans. There are 2 presidents' birthdays that fall in this month, as well as Black History Month, as well as Valentine's. And I don't have any sense of any celebrations or any activities or any acknowledgement of these American holidays. Oh, oops, I might be racist by bringing up American holidays. I don't know. But, I am an American and I feel I am being excluded in this community. So I hope that going forward, this community will please take into consideration that there are Americans who live in this city, and please respect, if possible, of course, our rights as well to celebrate our identity. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no other speakers.
We'll close public comment. And did you receive any written comments, Christy?
No, I did not.
Okay. Moving on to item 6, approval of minutes. 6.1, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of our January 12th, 2022 meeting?
Move to approve.
Okay. We have a motion to approve by Vice Chair Keniston Lee, and Commissioner Lopez Lucy is a second.
Great. We will take roll call. Thank you. We can bypass the ones that are absent. We'll say Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
Aye.
Commissioner Ellicott Pesic.
Aye.
Vice Chair Keniston Lee.
Aye.
Chair Oslin.
Aye.
Thank you. Passed.
Item 7 consent calendar. Do we have any items for the consent calendar?
No, we do not.
All right, moving on to commission business. Item 8. 8.1 dog park survey results and recommendations. We're going to receive an introduction by our director, Kathy Hyman, and a presentation by Becky Adams, program manager.
Well, good evening again, and it is my absolute pleasure to introduce the dog park item this evening and to introduce our special project team that we put together to dive into the topic of dog parks. As you know, from time to time, we have different projects that come about, and we don't have any staff resources assigned to them. So we offer the opportunity for staff to step up and be part of a special project team. In this case, Edwin C., James Spielvolga, Stacy Munzel, all stepped up to be on this dog park team. And Becky Adams also stepped in to assist with some of the leadership of some of the pieces of the puzzle that they undertook. And they did a lot of research. They gathered all kinds of information on best practices with dog parks. They visited most of the parks in San Ramon to analyze whether or not a dog park would be appropriate. They talked to a lot of dog owners, and they even talked to people who weren't dog owners. You're going to receive a presentation of just the highlights of what they discovered. However, there is a lot more that they did find out as they kind of dove into this project. And they will all be available after the presentation in order to answer questions that you might have. So I'm very proud of the work they've done, that they came together from all the different divisions. And I think that you'll be quite pleased by the information that they discovered. So let me hand it off to Becky Adams.
Well, thank you, Kathy. I think you covered quite a bit of my introduction, so I appreciate you doing that. So good evening, Chair Oslin, fellow commissioners, and thank you for having me here this evening. As Kathy mentioned, I am here with the rest of what we affectionately refer to as the K9 crew, which includes Edwin C., James Spielvogel, and Stacy Munsell. And we're going to present the dog park recommendations to you. So as you know, like Kathy mentioned, dog parks have been a very hot topic recently, and we have received multiple public comments here at the Parks and Community Services Commission meetings. And so based on this feedback, the Parks and Community Services Department developed a dog park initiative team to investigate this topic further. The team has been working very diligently over the last few months, and we're excited to share this presentation and recommendations with you this evening. So Christy, next slide, please. And so our recommendation this evening is to, we would like for the commission to receive the report, provide feedback and recommendation to staff regarding the proposed recommendations for our dog park improvements. I would like to mention that staff provided this presentation to the Facilities Committee on January 26th, and the committee indicated support of all the recommendations. However, the committee did question recommendation number 1, which you will see shortly, due to it not having separate spaces for small and large dogs. Next slide, please, Christy. And so on the map here in front of you, you're probably very familiar with this picture. It comes directly from our master plan. And so the city of San Ramon does offer 4 dog parks, which are indicated in purple on the map on your screen. And they are strategically located around the city in order to provide greater access to our public in all areas of the city. And so the dog parks that we have are Memorial Park, Del Mar Dog Park, Bark and Ride, and the Tassajara Ridge staging area. And of these parks, all of the parks, with the exception of Del Mar, provide separate areas for large and small dogs. The Del Mar Dog Park is a large area that is designated for dogs of all sizes. Next slide, please. And so an overview, which really got us to this point, is that during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a large increase of dog ownership, not only in San Ramon, but also in the nation as well. The community has been very vocal in their desire for improvements to our current dog parks, as well as their desire for additional dog parks here in the city of San Ramon. And as previously mentioned, and I know you are all aware of it, we have had multiple community members provide public comments at our commission meetings also. Next slide, please. And so for our dog park initiative, and so based on the public interest that has been expressed, the Parks and Community Services Department launched a dog park initiative to explore this topic more and to develop recommendations. And so in an effort to gain broad feedback from the San Ramon community, we approached it in a multi-pronged community outreach campaign. And we launched this in November 30th to 2021, so that we could make sure that we are giving the community an opportunity to provide feedback on our dog parks. And so we conducted a survey from November 30th to December 31st, and we received over 1,100 responses. Additionally, we launched a social media campaign, which included 4 posts on each of the platforms. The platforms include Facebook, Instagram, and Nextdoor. We also sent an email blast through Gov Delivery, and this was sent to over 27,000 Parks and Recreation news and event subscribers. Back one slide, please. Thank you. And then we also, Kathy mentioned we visited all of the parks, and Edwin, James, and Stacy did indeed visit every single park in San Ramon, and they posted signage at all of the parks. So not just the dog parks, but every park, because we wanted to make sure that all community members knew that we were seeking this feedback. And so the signage was posted at all of the parks, as well as 4 veterinary offices here in San Ramon and 4 pet stores. What was also included on that signage was a QR code, so that individuals could scan that QR code and it would take them directly to SurveyMonkey, where we were collecting the responses. The survey included questions regarding dog ownership, frequency of dog park use, types of preferred surfaces, distance willing to travel, dog park amenities, etc. And the full survey results, which contributed to the large packet for tonight's meeting, is included in your meeting packet. Next slide, please, Christy. So some of the highlights of the survey results. And so we wanted to know who we were talking to, who we were hearing from. And so 89% of the respondents indicated that they were residents of the city of San Ramon. And of the non-residents, most of those individuals indicated that they were residents of Danville and Dublin, with some other cities sprinkled in as well. Next slide, please. And then we asked about the dog park surface, and an overwhelming majority of the responses expressed a desire to have a different surface at the dog park. And unsurprisingly, 62% indicated that they would like to have grass at the dog park. And currently 75% of our dog park surfaces consist of decomposed granite, with the remaining dog park, which is Del Mar, is tan bark. And many of the dog owners stated that the surface, the decomposed granite, is too abrasive for their dog's paws, and the dust created from the surface caused illnesses for dogs and humans alike. Next slide, please, Christy. The next question I want to highlight here was, how far would they be willing to travel to a dog park? And just over 51% of the respondents indicated that they prefer to travel 2 miles or less from their home to the dog park. However, it should be noted, as you see in the bar graph on your screen, that it was pretty evenly distributed amongst the 4 different responses that were available on the survey. Next slide, please, Christy. And then the next item to discuss is the dog park signage. And so many of the survey respondents stated that additional signage is needed to adequately communicate the responsibilities of dog owners while visiting the dog park. So as mentioned, we have a lot of new dog owners in San Ramon who we just need to provide a little more information to them. And all of our dog parks currently have signage addressing most of these items. However, it should be enhanced and provides consistent guidelines at all of our dog parks. Next slide, please, Christy. The next question that we were asking, or I would like to highlight here tonight, is what are some of the concerns that people may have about having a dog park in their neighborhood? And many of the respondents expressed concerns about aggressive dogs at the park, dog owners not picking up after their dogs, supervision of the dogs, etc. However, it should be noted that, as you see on your screen, that over 43% of the respondents indicated that they had no concerns whatsoever of having a dog park in their neighborhood. Next slide, please, Christy. And so some considerations that the dog park or the canine crew took into account as we were looking at this was, could we identify the possibility of an unleashed, unfenced area for dogs? And unfortunately, the team was unable to identify a suitable location due to the need to provide separation between dogs and park goers. However, if desired, this could be explored more in the future. The next is the feasibility of a grass park on the west side of San Ramon. And so as we were looking at this, we too were unable to identify a location on the west side of San Ramon to develop a grass dog park, but without compromising the existing park attributes and the enjoyment by the community at large. However, we do recommend that consideration is given to provide the addition of a grass dog park, as new parks are developed on the west side of San Ramon, planned or developed. And so then, based on the survey results and site visits, we have prepared 5 recommendations for you this evening. Next slide, please, Christy. So recommendation number 1 that we have is to designate the grass space located southeast of the Tiffany Roberts Field at the San Ramon Sports Park as a dog park for dogs of all sizes, and install fencing, gates, dog waste bag stations, and windscreens to the area. This area is indicated, outlined in yellow on the screen, and it would be approximately just under 20,000 square feet, as indicated on the handout here. And so there are 3 major items that would need to be done in order to make this a feasible dog park. This includes adding a 4-foot fence along and gates along the north end to fully enclose the area. And this would include a double gate for safe dog and owner access, as well as a separate gate for mower access. It would also include the removal of and installation of 10-foot fencing of the shared fence with the Tiffany Roberts Field to prevent sports dogs from entering the dog park space. And then also include the installation of windscreens on that shared fence with Tiffany Roberts Field to provide a separation between the 2 areas. For these items, we are estimating the cost to be at approximately $50,000. Currently, the shared fence with Tiffany Roberts is 6 feet tall. And as we were looking at this, staff did their due diligence, and we talked with some of our frequent users of Tiffany Roberts Field, and specifically soccer. And they indicated that with the fence being 6 feet tall, that a ball is kicked over that fence and enters the dog park space approximately 4 to 5 times per hour or per practice or game when it's in use. Generally, practices and games occur during the evenings and weekends. In the evenings, it runs till about 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And so these times are also the times that we are anticipating to be the highest usage for the dog park space as well. And so it would be important to increase that height so that we can provide a safe atmosphere. It should also be noted that in the space that is highlighted or outlined in yellow, there is no potable water access in this space. And so the water access is located at the main entrance of the park by the parking lot, as well as near the basketball courts and the main entrance of the Tiffany Roberts Field. And that would be approximately 40 to 50 yards for water. As a future enhancement, the public services staff has identified a potable water access near the trail that is located east of the proposed dog park space, and a water line could be extended into the dog park area to provide a water fountain within the space. It should be noted, though, that the cost to add that potable water line is unknown at this time and is not included in the cost estimate that I previously mentioned. Next slide, please, Christy. And so, with most options, there's always pros and cons. And so I want to discuss those as well. So some of the pros is very little fencing would need to be added to fully enclose the space. Picnic tables are in the vicinity. There's no adjacent residential housing. There is natural shade as well as access to bathrooms, and it has an accessible pathway. With the location of the proposed dog park space, we would have nighttime access, which has been requested by the public due to the light bleed over from Tiffany Roberts Field. There is a dedicated parking lot, existing irrigation system, and then also with the increased fence height, that would also be a benefit to the sports groups who utilize Tiffany Roberts Field. And we could also utilize this space as a gauge for maintenance needs for future grass dog parks. Some of the cons is that we would need to install windscreens because it does share a fence with our turf field, our artificial turf field. Parking is located across the park. As mentioned, there's no water fountain or potable water in the area at this time. There is no separate space for different dog sizes due to the shape of the area. And since it is natural grass, it would need to be closed during the winter months for rehabilitation, very similar to our sports fields currently. I want to make sure that I'm catching all of my points because I know this is one of the meatier topics. So, okay, yes, we have everything. So if please advance the slides, please, Christy. Recommendation number 2. We would like to we are recommending investigating creating a grass dog park at Monarch Park with amenities to include tables, shade, dog play features, and a dog drinking fountain. And due to the large grass space available, it could provide a separate area for small and large dogs. And due to the project's potentially high cost, staff would need to explore developing a capital improvement or CIP in a future fiscal year and identify a funding source. Next slide, please, Christy. Again, with pros and cons, pros for this space is existing picnic benches in the area, natural shade. There are park amenities, including a playground, a group picnic area, and accessible restrooms. There's trail access around Monarch Park, as well as a dedicated parking lot. There's minimal adjacent housing. There is some, and then we could look at this space as a potential for an unfenced opportunity and still provide a location for dogs to run and play. Some of the cons is we would need to look into potentially removing an existing barbecue in the proposed area, add a dog weigh station to the area. We would need to fully fence this space, and so that would be at a cost. It is, although it's minimal, there are a proximity to residential housing, and there is no water fountain in the designated area. It should also be noted that due to the adjacent neighbors, we would need to have a public meeting in order to consider this Monarch Dog Park location as a future amenity. Next slide, please, Christy. Recommendation number 3, we are recommending to create an unfunded CIP to improve the 4 existing dog parks with people and dog-friendly amenities, including additional seating, shade, tables, doggy play features, agility course features, and also run potable water lines with dog-friendly drinking fountains when needed to any new proposed dog parks. We also, looking at this, staff believes that some of these desired amenities may be of interest to sponsors and or for grants that we could seek to help offset or to help fund this recommendation. Next slide, please, Christy. Recommendation number 4, we would like to address the signage at the dog parks. So staff is recommending to develop and install enhanced signage to provide consistent messaging at all of the dog parks. Parks and Community Services staff would work with Public Services to research dog park signage that is used in other communities in order to update the signage at the dog parks. And we are looking to include a QR code on the sign that would link directly back to the City of San Ramon website. Signage would need to be developed and purchased for all existing and new dog parks, and we are estimating this cost would be approximately $4,000. Next slide, please, Christy. And the final recommendation that I have for you this evening is updating the city website and launching a social media campaign. So this really goes back to helping educate the public. And so creating a dog park section on the City of San Ramon website with information regarding dog park locations, updated pictures of each dog park, maps, rules and regulations, and etiquette. The Parks and Community Services staff would launch a social media campaign aimed at educating the San Ramon community of their responsibilities as dog owners. And the Parks and Community Services staff would absorb this task into their current workload. Next slide, please, Christy. So those are the dog park recommendations that I have for you this evening, and I'm sure there'll be some questions and we will be happy to answer those for you.
Thank you so much, Becky. So I'd like to, before we open up for public comment, I'd like to find out if any of the commissioners before feedback have any clarifying questions for Becky. Clarifying only. So I see Vice Chair Keniston, excuse me, yes, Keniston Lee, sorry, need more coffee.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Becky. And thanks to everybody, the whole K9 crew for your guys' hard work. We appreciate it. So I was curious if in all your research, you got a sense of best practices for the number of dog parks in cities of our size.
As we went through our master plan, the staff who was helping with that did indicate that we had an appropriate number of dog parks in San Ramon. So we did not specifically look into that. We were relying on the information from the consultants from the master plan when it was done very recently within the last few years.
Okay. I'm really running the risk of seeing like a Cliff Clavin here, but I did want to know kind of what best practices were. And so I did a very quick search and found out that one source cites Boise as the number one city, and their proportion is 6.3 dog parks for 100,000 residents. That's like gold standard as far as this source. So just to say, I think we're not doing a half bad job in terms of the number of dog parks that we have in a community of less than 90,000, right? So I thought it was useful for me to have that point of reference. Now that doesn't always necessarily drive what you do, but it's good to know. And then obviously other communities, it goes down from there, but there are communities that may have hundreds of thousands of folks in their community. So it's a bit relative. Another question I have, Chair Osland, would be, is it possible for us to submit a generic dog park CIP? And this for Kathy, I guess. How specific do we have to get?
I think that's one of the recommendations is potentially to set up a dog park CIP so that we have a place, if we do get grants and we can identify funding, that we can make improvements to the existing dog parks. I think if we want to put like the sports park on as a CIP, we may want to call that one out separately so that we can put that forward and see when the CIP comes back around to the commission, if it's something that you do want to recommend funding. So that would be the difference. The amenities, which would be a dog park CIP that's unfunded versus a recommendation for funding a CIP for a specific location.
Right. So any of the specific locations would really require a very specific CIP.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it could be in the same number, but yes.
Yeah. And then I wondered, are we saying then that the sports park suggestion, is that going to, the $50,000 option, is that would require a CIP as well?
Yes, that would.
Okay. And then the signage, I know you mentioned the $4,000, Becky, for the signage. Is that something we expect to already have money for, or would we include that in a CIP?
Kathy, would you like to take that one? Because I know we've talked about it.
Yes, we believe that we could do the signage with some of our existing operating budget funds, so we would not have to have a CIP for that.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you, Chair Osland.
Great. Commissioner Lopez Lucy, clarifying questions.
Yes, I had a question of, I guess when we met at facilities, I was under the impression that perhaps the one at the sports park could proceed without a CIP, but now that's not the case.
So yes, I think that may have been it. And I think and I'm sure Kathy will want to clarify as well, due to the 10-foot fencing requirement, that is the more expensive option, but it's also the preferred and safer option. So at that point, it does increase that to that CIP level. And I'm sure Kathy would like to provide clarification as well.
Yes, just exactly as Becky said, if we kept the fence as it exists as a 6-foot fence, the project would be quite inexpensive, relatively speaking. We could probably have accomplished it for a $10,000 range. But given the knowledge that we now have of how many soccer balls are going over the fence into that area, I do feel that it's a safety concern. And whether or not we do decide to make that into a dog park, I still believe we should be increasing the fence because there are tables over there. And that is a lot of soccer balls coming into an area where people might be playing or having a picnic. And so ultimately, a CIP is needed because that fencing is going to be more expensive.
Well, my other question was, are we planning to do, is it our intent to plan for getting something done as soon as possible? Because with a CIP, we have to get that online, but there would be nothing that we could really do until like another year or so, because CIPs, I assume, are already completed for this coming year. So was that any consideration that we needed to act more quickly than perhaps going with CIPs?
Well, the CIP is being put together right now and will come to you in a list form in April for your feedback before it moves on to the city council. So it is just barely in time to catch that process, which is why we're bringing it to you now.
Okay, so that then we could do, if the council approved it, we could act by in the fall or something like that?
As of the new fiscal year, which is July 1. So again, this isn't a very complicated, not a very complicated fix because it's a fence. So fairly simplistic to get a contractor out to do, so we could act as quickly as summer.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Mhm. I have a couple questions around recommendation number 2 at Monarch Park. Do we have any benchmarks or local communities that have off-leash dog parks that are not fenced? Do we have any in our vicinity? I know unofficially we have them, but are there any official ones?
You are 100% correct. Unofficially, yes. Officially, we were not able to find any. However, I know that there are a number of communities who are also exploring this as well. And so we were not able to find specific information. They do have some that they designate parks at different times for dogs. So I guess maybe the answer is sort of. And so it wouldn't be creating the entire process. It would be making it specific to San Ramon, taking some of the best practices that people have done, a part of it, and then we could add on the piece to really round it out and finalize it for San Ramon.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification. And my second question is around recommendation 3, improving our existing dog parks with new amenities. I know this is something I asked at the facilities meeting, and I think it's probably good that we bring it up around replacing some of the current grounds of the crushed granite and or bark with grass. So if you could tell us a little bit more about costs that would be incurred with something along that line, improving what we currently have with new material, what I want to say, turf or whatever, grass.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I understand. So you're talking about taking out decomposed granite and adding in grass at the space.
Yes, at the current parks.
At the current parks. And so I have talked with Brent Scroggs over in Public Services regarding this specific topic. And I believe he may be in the audience. So if needed, he could also provide clarification. If we were to look at that possibility, the only park or current dog park that we have that we could do that is Bark and Ride. And that is because it already has existing irrigation in place. For example, Tassajara Ridge staging area, that is on a potable water line, and we are prohibited from irrigating turf with potable water. So that would not be an option for us. If we were to look at Bark and Ride, for example, we would be able to convert approximately, and these are rough numbers, these are not specifics, these are just numbers that staff were able to extrapolate out. So we would still need to get official bids. So just to put that out there, in order to convert approximately 30,000 square feet at Bark and Ride, which is approximately the large dog side at Bark and Ride, to natural turf, that would be approximately $75,000. It should also be noted that this does not include the annual maintenance cost. And so the $75,000 is just for the conversion. And annual maintenance cost is estimated at approximately $20,000. So that's including mowing, water, all of those things. And this would be a long-term maintenance cost that would have to be added to the public services budget.
Great. Thank you, Becky.
You're welcome.
I'd like to open it up to public comments.
Yes, we have 9 in attendance and we do have 1 with public comment. Let me bring that person in. 1 moment. Speaker, you're allowed to speak. Please state your name.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Please state your name. You're ready to go.
Okay, well, I don't have to per Brown Act. So I would like to voice my objection to this plan because, first of all, it costs way too much money and it really makes the city look like a hypocrite, because I remember not long ago there were NGOs who came to our city meeting to bark at our city council, accuse them that they were wasting water because we have street dividers that are still grass and takes up way too much water, and the staff is not being very honest in presenting the cost effect to the commissioners here, because you deliberately left out the cost of water line that is going to have to be added in. So I feel that there is some undisclosed cost that is going to cost our taxpayers a lot that the staff knows but don't want to disclose. And not all of the city residents are dog owners. And for one, I'm sick and tired of looking at dog rears that pop up in front of my window every single day. I don't ever burden other people to pick up after my children, but I have to look at other people's dogs' rears, and sometimes they don't pick up, and it's really just very upsetting. If they want it, they are going to have to pay for it. I would recommend that you guys, since you're so high tech, make sure they register, make sure there aren't plenty of crowded dogs altogether that get into fights, and then we become obligated to pay for somebody's medical bills or dead dogs. I really think that there should be pre-registration, like you require the human residents in the city to do with tennis courts. So make sure the dog owners pre-register and then limit the capacity that at one time the dogs are allowed to go in there. I'm also very concerned about children. There has been a lot of children who were bitten in San Francisco. When you have dogs and children that are way too close in proximity, I prefer to protect human children. So I wholeheartedly object to the current presentation of this plan. I think the sites are poorly picked. It sounds like one of them is way too close with human activities. And the staff also did not disclose the square footage of these parks that they're asking for the commissioners to add grass, which the NGOs object, and also to draw additional water lines because of the grass. Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment, Christy?
No, we do not.
All right, I'd like to open it up now for our discussion with the commissioners and to provide Becky and the team some feedback. I'd like to start with Commissioner Ellicott-Pisick.
Thank you so much. And I first want to express my heartfelt appreciation for the detail and the thoroughness of the report and the presentation. It is excellent. It makes it really, really easy to understand what the problem is, what the options are, and the pros and cons. And Becky, to you and your team, I just continue to be impressed at the thoroughness of your work and presentation. Along the same lines, I want to express appreciation, Kathy, to you and your entire staff. I'm still pretty new to the commission. It's been under a year. And I've been impressed at how responsive you all are. And I've shared that with the community. If you have a concern, you have a question, you have something you want to share, bring it to the commission, bring it to the Parks and Community Services team, because they care. And I was impressed that a group of folks came and said, hey, we have a problem. They were specific, they were respectful, and they wanted to be part of the solution. And here we are a short time later, in my mind, with an actual tangible responsive solution. So Kathy, Becky, to you and your team, I'm very proud to be part of this organization because of that work. And I know we've got a lot tonight, but I think that's really important to express for me how much I appreciate that and how I feel better being part of it. I also want to say that while I am not a dog owner, I have cats, and a large part of that is because of the responsibility of dogs. And I know that they need the attention, they need to be outside, they need to interact with other people, or rather other dogs and environments. And I am thrilled to be in a community where we embrace pets and options for families to include pets. I don't know exactly how to say it, but it actually puts a smile on my face when I drive by dog parks and I see the kind of interactions. My father lives in Petaluma by himself and has a dog, and he very much, that is a big part of his world, is going to the dog park, and it gives him a chance to connect with people, particularly during COVID, and being alone and working from home, regardless of COVID. It's been a godsend to him. So I think this idea of expanding or improving our dog parks and those opportunities really dovetails very well with our goals to provide a healthy community. This is part of wellness. This is part of connection. And even if I'm not a dog person, I love this. I absolutely love this. We have the space, and we should embrace, and we should make this a priority. I know we have a lot of priorities. Now, I do have a few concerns. So I will tell you that I live in the Doherty Valley, and I live just down from Tiffany Roberts Sports Park. All three of my kids attended Live Oak Elementary. All three were very active in soccer, somewhat in baseball, but definitely more soccer. And you all know I've spent a lot of time in soccer and still spend a lot of time in soccer. And I've spent a good part of my life at Tiffany Roberts Sports Park in one form or another, whether it's supervising the Live Oak Elementary Run Club that goes down and uses Tiffany Roberts. Field day, we use Tiffany Roberts. And then, of course, all the games and practices. And yes, the balls flying into the street and over the fences are always a challenge. I will say that I apologize for my bug eyes, but when I saw the photo of the first recommendation adjacent to Tiffany Roberts Sports Park, I immediately had all my antennas going up saying, I have huge concerns about this. So I am no expert in this, and I know you guys are doing a lot of analysis, but as part of the portion of feedback and having spent a lot of time there, not just involved with soccer, but there is so much community that go in and out of there. So many elderly grandparents shuffling through the park, getting their exercise, doing Tai Chi, young children in and out, kids, adolescents at the basketball courts constantly, soccer and lacrosse on the Tiffany Roberts turf field all the time. During the season, I don't know what the season is, soccer, it's year round, but we get baseball and we'll get cricket and on the grass, etc. I feel like there's real value in having a dog park adjacent to so much activity, but given how much activity and the compressed nature already of the activity and some of the conflicting use that has kind of worked out, I just feel like this one extra element in that space is too much. I flat out don't like this idea. Now, could I be convinced otherwise? Possibly. I'm open to, hearing why I'm not, there's other things to think about. If we were looking at a dog park somewhere out at Central Park, I think that would be a challenge, but I'd go, okay, there's a lot more space. How can we create some separation? It's long, but in that section of Tiffany Roberts Sports Park, it is constant motion. The parking lot is almost constantly filled. And, there's athletics from immediately after school until the lights get turned off during the week. And on the weekends from early in the morning to late at night. I just think there's too much going on there. So I would suggest this should not be at the top of our list. Again, I'm totally open to my mind being, my concerns being allayed. But I had some pretty strong immediate reactions to, oh, no. I love that it's not, there's some residential distance, but it's too close to too much activity. And yes, you could build a very high fence, but I don't think that will address the ingress and egress, the parking lot, the just number of additional factors that will be added in with dogs and barking and chaos and all of that. Sorry, quite at length.
Okay. Vice Chair Keniston-Lee.
Thank you. So I wanted to first talk about the fact that you guys got 1,124 survey responses. Can we celebrate that for a moment? Because unless I'm completely mistaken, that's pretty good. And so when I read all the things that you guys did in terms of outreach, it felt genuine. It felt thorough. And so I wanted to celebrate that for a second, because I really thought I love that you guys went to vets, you went to pet stores. Brilliant. That was great. So that's good. That's how you get good data and you get a bead on what your community wants, right? That's good. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the sports park. I want to first say I appreciate, we all know how much Commissioner Ellicott-Pesic has spent at the sports field. So I really love having that perspective from her. And this is part of this process, is we all bring our own perspectives and experiences, and we rely on that as part of the process, right? So thank you, Heidi, for sharing that with us. I appreciate it. Having said that, and again, I'll go into this more, but I do feel like I'm not prepared to move forward with it, but I feel like the sports park recommendation was thoughtful. I see the thought you guys put into it. I see all the considerations that you guys took into account when coming up with that recommendation. So I want to validate that a little bit as well. Okay, so here are my priorities for this, excuse me, process. My gut tells me that we have 4 parks. So it's not, a coincidence that I bring up Boise, Idaho, and the fact that we have a decent number of parks. I think if we're going to have dog parks, we need to take care of them properly. And I'm a little heartsick that it costs so much darn money to put grass in there, because clearly the surveying that we did shows that residents want, for the most part, right, grass. And so I see that that's something that they want. So I think we need to upgrade our existing parks. Let's not add a park while neglecting the parks that we have. So I feel like that's a valid CIP for me. And I think included in that, if we don't find the money elsewhere, is the improved signage could be part and parcel. I think it's one, really, I think that could have been one recommendation in my mind. So I think that's good. I'm daunted by the cost of getting grass in there, but I don't want to abandon it. Okay. I want to keep that in mind, but because that's clearly what people want. I like the idea of seating and shade, because I like the people, it's a community builder. I like the adults to be able to commune, you know what I mean? And if a senior wants to go there with their little pet, that they have shade. That's really important. These are the kinds of things we do in parks and community services, right? So I think those things are really important. I also strongly support the use of the website and social media to promote our dog parks and to forge correct usage of our dog parks and to set expectations of good dog park etiquette and all those good things. That, for me, is a no-brainer, right? We need to do that for sure. Obviously, I said the signage is something that I totally agree. Consistent, clear, concise messaging that's digestible by all folks who would use the dog park. That's really important to me. Here's where I take a little bit of a turn. I see how, given the fact that you're talking about, $95,000 the first year to have grass in the one park that even can take grass, I see why you would then look to an alternative that's already got the water and all the good stuff, right? But I think we need to continue the conversation. I don't know that we're ready to pull the trigger. And let's face it, the CIP process with all of the competing priorities in the city, we probably are looking at, if we're lucky, getting the improvements to existing dog parks. And then maybe as a second step, we look at whether we convert up an existing park and add a dog park, or look at one of the other options. I mean, we can look at things like, you know, I know that residents from the Suyin, Bellingham area have asked us about, you know, a dog park at Critter Crossroads, right? Which we know that's not possible at this point because of the plans have been approved by the county and the city. So that's not going to happen at this stage of the game. You know, we need to look at, are there gaps in areas of our city where we need to provide dog park access, right? And I don't know that we're there just yet. So I think it may need a little more consideration, a little bit more evaluation from that perspective. You know, so do we look at a future incarnation of Critter Crossroads and adding something there? I'm not sure. Obviously, that's a very expensive option. Do we look at the San Ramon Sports Park? Do we look at the fact that Suyin Park, the playground, is going to be updated soon? And is there a way that we, you know, pull something in there in that area? I don't have the answers to these questions. I just know these are the questions. You know, we kind of look at that side of San Ramon and, you know, do we do something at Monarch? There are some things that are very appealing about that, but that's a pretty chunky piece of change, right? The other thing that it kind of made me think about is the fact that we need to start considering the west side and some of the reserved parking spaces, the parks that have been undeveloped. You know, where might we plug in dog parks over there? Where are they needed? Is it in the budget? And then finally, although I know Kathy very wisely has talked about, you know, the question of dog parks in the city core in downtown, you know, the more I observe the planning commission meetings, the more I get, they are building and people will come and they will have pets. And we need to think about, where are they going to go? You know, are they going to go up to Memorial? To Heidi's point, do we look at Central Park and see if there's a way to plug something in there? You know, we were creating this walking district, and I think we need to, as a Parks and Community Services Commission, we need to think about, how do we service this new urban environment that we're building in San Ramon, right? So to that point, and I'm just making sure I haven't missed anything that I wanted to, you know, I did want to mention, you know, again, we need to do a little bit deeper analysis into, are there underserved areas like city, maybe, or future underserved areas like the city core, or in areas, you know, we'd all love to have a dog, well, maybe not all of us would love to have a dog park that's really close, right? We know that's not feasible. So we've been strategic. We need to continue to be strategic about that. But I think the bottom line on this point is, I think we need to continue that discussion. And I even almost would suggest that we do an agendized field trip to some of these areas as a commission, and collectively, and with whomever in the public's interested, take a look at the different options, because sometimes it's not until you see it right in front of you. And a lot of us are very conscientious and we go visit before these meetings and things, but we might want to consider some kind of agendized field trip. So those are, I hope that's what you're looking for, Becky, but that's sort of where I'm at.
Thank you.
Hey. Commissioner Lopez Lucy, and then I'll jump in.
All right, I do want to say that Heidi, you brought a different aspect that I had never considered, that it was that busy, but I have not been active at where you were. So it's a good point that I think that we have to consider. And yeah, I'm to the planning. It really is when you're building these buildings, of which some have been approved and some have just put in there, but they never address a park. There's lots of people that's going to be there, but is this going to be private parks, like some that they have already considered there, that we have some private ones, but they're open to the public. There wouldn't be our expense. But I don't know if any of those are going to happen. So that I think that's really where we have to look for there. I guess I'm not in favor of having a dog park at the Central Park, because that's so useful that you can go there for other avenues, and then to have part of it with dogs, and then they'd be kind of running around or whatever. I just think that's not the best place for a dog park. I would really not want to do that from being very useful, being there a lot with my daughters and my daughter and my grandchildren. The other area, we sort of, if we want to grass the area, I mean, to me, it would be much more effective to look at Monarch Park than to try to make our other parks with so much money to put in grass. Now, I know that Dublin has a grass park, and I know some of my friends have gone there, but they wouldn't go there again because the grass, it's just, it doesn't hold up. So, but if we need grass, which most of the people wanted, I think we should look at Monarch Park, but there again, that is going to be a substantial also, but it already is grass. That would seem like it's a bit cheaper to do that than to have another park be revitalized to have grass. So that would be my thing. And I know the other thing that is kind of related to this, but not specifically. But so when I read all these items, so many people are unhappy with aggressive dogs. And I'm just wondering if there's something that the city could do to put on a training program or something where some of these families who have just recently, probably got puppies when they were little and the COVID and everything. And now they really sometimes don't know how to actively take care of them. And how to train them, because you do have to train them. Personally have a dog right now, but I've had two. But that was something else I thought maybe we should look into, that besides the fencing and everything, that maybe there's a couple of times we could have some training for dogs for the city to help people. I thought that might be, but I guess I would, since Heidi has given her idea there, I mean, it does make sense because I was in soccer a lot. And of course, the times are busy, and that has other areas of everything. So, but I guess I would tend to do Monarch Park, but I still think we have to look around and always be on the lookout for, on the west side, we will need definitely another dog park. And I know that we have houses and there isn't very many places that we can have to come up with a new park just specifically for this. But I agree that we should continue to look for areas that we have to do in the future, because we're growing by leaps and bounds. So we do need some more parks. And I think they are good. So I guess my sort of Heidi changed my thinking that would be the best, quickest way to go to get another park. Maybe that's not the best way to go to be quick, but be safer maybe. But I guess I would lean towards looking at Monarch Park more definitely. That would be my comments.
And I see Commissioner Ellicott has her hand back up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What Heidi meant, I kind of said Central Park a little flippantly. I do think there may be space there that could be out of the way. I don't know. What Commissioner Kennison Lee raised, and I would love to hear if it's something you guys have thought about, or whether it's something you may want to think about, is, we talk a lot about the city walk and, the whole downtown area. If you included that, my apologies, but I don't know whether you guys have thought about a dog park being somewhere in that overall geography, maybe not as creating a situation where it's all dog people walking, but like adding a destination that's part of the city walk somewhere in there. I don't know if that's an option, but I would love to at some point hear from staff whether that's something, because we've talked about this, like as we're doing everything, we talk about how can we promote connection between our community, how can we promote health and wellness, and also, this city walk is such a big part of everything that we're doing, creating that downtown, that city center, at least in my mind. So I'd love to hear that. And then I do want to clarify, yes, I do talk a lot about soccer, but I hope it wasn't lost that it's being a resident and a neighbor and whatever. It's not just about soccer up there. It is a busy park, really wonderfully busy, but smaller and more condensed than Central, which is also extremely busy. So thank you for letting me clarify that.
I see another hand up, Vice Chair Keniston-Lee.
Yeah, I was going to talk about the down. First of all, Kathy has mentioned when we were looking at BR6, she did mention dog parks and whether we want to consider that. So I know that has been broached. And as I recall, we didn't go for it at the time. So I know it was mentioned. The problem with the City Core Center having brought this thing up is that there's so much private property that there's a process we would have to go through. It's just like the walking district. Last night, City Council looked at the walking district guidelines that they adopted. And, there's so much private property there, we have to be sensitive to that in terms of looking to develop a dog park or what have you. So I just wanted to have us be sensitive to the challenges of developing the city core, the downtown, as we're looking at parks and as we're looking at dog parks and all that stuff, that there are limitations there. Now that we still want to explore the options, but just to be conscious of that.
Great. Okay, well, I'll bring us home. I like coming last because so many great ideas are brought up and additional feedback of areas that I hadn't really considered either. So I just want to start with Commissioner Ellicott-Pesek and her feedback around the Tiffany Roberts Park. I did visit each of these parks and brought my dog with me. And when I was at Tiffany Roberts Park, and actually at all of them, it was late afternoon between 3:30 and 5, I visited them. And I noticed even at Central Park, when I was just there yesterday, between that same time frame, there are dogs on leashes everywhere. That seems to be like the peak time. Maybe it goes until 6 or 6:30, but it, for me, it's usually between the 3:30 and 5 window. And so I just want to say, when I was there looking at the Tiffany Roberts, that space, it seemed very isolated to me from the field. There is a fence, and I know that what had been suggested was a screen so that you wouldn't see the game going on. So there would be some kind of a filter, a view, a vision. And so Becky, is that correct? There would be a screen there. And we also had talked about raising, the original plan was for it to be about 6 feet, and 10 feet would be the recommended, but it was more costly. And we thought, well, if the balls are going to come in, it's got to be 10 feet. You don't want to put a shorter one in and then have to tear it down. So from hearing all of that and from walking it, and I don't live in that area, so I appreciate your feedback on that. It seemed like you could enter it not necessarily from that parking lot. You could park on the street and come in it from the side direction, or from the school, park there and walk on down. So it seemed like there were other alternatives to, rather than parking actually where the kids and the parents are parking for the actual field activity. So it didn't seem as restrictive to me. I think for me, the concern was that it would be a park with big and small dogs, which we do have one of those already, and it works as long as people know that that's the situation. Then they can bring their small dog with the big dogs, at their own risk. But I appreciate you sharing that, because I didn't have that perspective so much when I was there, but it might be something that we should probably check more and do a little bit more reconnaissance work around that space. Would be my recommendation. And I really also want to validate what Commissioner Ellicott-Pesek said around the team and all your due diligence and all your hard work. And really, it's very impressive. So thank you again for taking a moment, Commissioner Ellicott-Pesek, to bring that forward. Commissioner Vice Chair Keniston Lee, I love the fact that you did some reconnaissance work on Boise and to give us sort of some benchmarks. I know that was something we did talk about at the facilities meeting. So thank you for doing a little homework on that. And what I did learn when we had our meeting earlier was that 4 parks really is substantial, and where they're positioned within San Ramon is geographically pretty smart. I mean, they're spread out. The problem is that the gravel and the surface is just not desirable. So I am also interested in quality versus quantity, and which is one of our master plan principles, is maintaining what we currently have and making it better. So I'm also in alignment with thinking along that line. And if Bark and Ride is the only park, I would like to actually explore that more, to add grass at that facility. As far as that is, I guess, recommendation 3, really looking at our water, fountains, and making sure and I know we've brought this up at other meetings around making sure we have water bottle filling stations. If we're going to upgrade these current parks, I really want us to be sort of state of the art with that stuff, benches, shade, all of those things. When I look at what Commissioner Lopez Lucy said around the private parks development, I hadn't thought about that, but that is an idea with the city walk development and Sunset in our downtown core. I don't know, as more housing is developed, maybe that is something that we should really start adding into the planning equation, and that the Parks Commission and Parks and Community Services gets a part of that. Central Park was there yesterday, a lot of dogs on leashes, no one was off leash, but there were a lot of dogs on leashes. So people are already using the park to walk their dogs in the afternoon. As far as offering training, I feel like we have a lot of those options available within the community. And when you get a puppy, you sign up for dog training, and, as a responsible dog owner, you should, but perhaps maybe having some, maybe more, one-off kinds of dog things. I just feel like the city should be responsible for everybody's training. So that would be kind of more a lower priority for me. But I also wanted to get back to the walking district. And I feel that in the spirit of the walking district, it's really around connectivity and creating walking areas for the residents in the downtown core, as well as all the San Ramon residents. And yes, people are going to have dogs and they're going to be on leashes. Now, do we need a dog park around that? I'm not sure. My feeling is, as long as we have walkable spaces for a long distance, I think dog on leash is getting the same benefit as to going to a dog park. They could go to a dog park on another day if they want to have that experience with their animal. So I do think that in the spirit of the walking district and with the development down there, I think that the walking district itself will offer a lot of ample walking opportunities for dog owners too. I think the only other thing that I wanted to add was the West Side parks, and thank you, Vice Chair Keniston Lee, for bringing that up too. I feel that we have the Memorial Park is the only dog park on the west side right now. And I think as we develop our newer parks on the west side, we really need to, that's where we need to be adding another dog park. So as far as, recommendation 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, definitely 3, we need to elevate, take care of what we have and improve it. 4 and 5, signage and social media must be done. And my strong feeling around the social media campaign is to really educate our community around dog etiquette. And so if you are at a park and there's nobody there and you want to throw your ball for your dog, is that okay? So I think there, right now it's kind of an uncommon or an unspoken rule that people just do it. But, we probably do need to explore that a little bit further about what are our rules and standards around that. And if dogs are friendly, is that okay? Maybe it is okay. And there's no other kids around, but it's really teaching, educating our community. So I think that's really all I wanted to add. I felt also just one final thing is that the Tiffany Roberts Park, I thought being that it has the light late in the evening, I thought that does afford some people who might work later in the day and may not be able to do that 3:30 to 5:30 window, maybe having an opportunity to go at 7 or 8 to walk your dog because there's lights on would be an option. And I liked that. But I would also want to make very cautious about making sure that it would not be disruptive to any of the things that are currently going on there. So I see one more hand. Vice Chair Keniston Lee has his help.
Thank you. Just 3 quick things. One is on Commissioner Lopez Lucy's dog training suggestion. I think we could entertain it from a revenue generation perspective, like making a rec guide offering. There are some logistics involved with that, but we're always looking for ways that make sense for our community to generate revenue. So it would be interesting to pursue that a little bit further. The other thing is in terms of the social media and so forth, we have our, what Kathy, it's called Park of the Week, right? Maybe we do a series where it's specifically Dog Park of the Week. You know what I mean? As far as the whole campaign. And then finally, Becky, I wanted to ask you, I'm sure you guys did this. Did you guys really dig deep on surfacing options? Because like when we're looking at designing a park, there are so many different playground floor options, man-made materials and this and that. And so I just wonder, because we cannot be the first community that has dealt with the cost of grass in this, in this environment. I wonder if there's something out there that can replace the DG or what have you, that's not grass, but it achieves the same effect. How deep did you guys go?
So we did look at this. However, we're not the experts. And so I would need to defer to public services since they would be the ones, maintaining those items. And so, if you looked at the survey results, there were a number of people who, indicated they really like some parks in San Francisco and it had artificial turf, et cetera. But also we are very aware that the weather in San Ramon is incredibly different than San Francisco. And so to be honest with you, no, we did not go very deep on this. Specifically because we're not the experts on it, but I do think that's something that we could work with public services and we could go forward from there. I think Kathy may have some comments as well.
Yeah, I would echo that. In the information that I know about the artificial turf surfaces, they do get really hot, and we're all fine when you're wearing your tennis shoes. But if you walk out there on a hot summer day with little paw pads, this is not maybe our ideal. It's also a bit of a cleaning issue because, of course, sanitation and trying to keep that kind of a surface clean is more difficult. And so there are different people trying different surfaces, and in small like apartment kind of settings, you'll sometimes see a little dog area and they might do artificial turf. It's more of a dog place for them to go and relieve themselves than it is like a running dog park. And so really what we're seeing mostly are most people are going either a grass or some kind of a dirt function, but definitely something we can dig into a little more and see if there's something out there. And as Becky says, public services might want to weigh in.
I'll be honest, artificial turf hadn't even crossed my mind because we've all had those discussions about artificial turf getting hot, right, in the summer. So I have 3 dogs, so I know how the little creatures work. But I was thinking more of like, and don't quote me on this because I'm not sure this is the way to put it, but like a rubberized or some kind of, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just wondering if we need to think outside the box or do some benchmarking with your fellow Parks and Rec professionals to see if anybody has some ideas. Because I think for me, it just so resonates that the residents are looking for a different surface, And it may be, as Chair Oslin said, that we've got to bite the bullet, and with the park that we can put grass in, we need to look to do that. But I would love to hear if we could research that a little bit further. And that was it. Thank you, Chair Oslin.
You're welcome.
Chair
Also
Oslin, Brent Scroggs had his hand up.
Oh,
and
great.
So Brent, did you still want to comment? Okay, Brent, you could speak.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. Yeah, I think Kathy, you touched on it best. The artificial turf is, it does get hot. I did some research on surfacing, and really those three surfaces are the main surfaces used. The DG that we are currently using, it is basically a zero maintenance surface. It doesn't require a cost for maintenance throughout the year. It's very beneficial. The other surface is Fibar, which is what we are using at the Del Mar Dog Park. Those two surfaces really are the most used surfaces for dog parks kind of throughout everywhere. And then the third surface is the grass, which is what we're obviously looking to try to make that work. So those are really the three main surfaces that work for dog parks.
Thank you, Brent, and my apologies, I did not see your hand. Thank you very much for that input. I just want to remind everybody, it is part of our master plan. It's 4.3C, enhanced dog parks with shade and seating to accommodate both human and canine user comfort needs. So it is on our plan, and it's a high priority 6 to 10 years out. So our master plan is 2020. So this was something that we know is important that we do need to pay attention to, and that's our idea was 2026. So just want to remind everyone of that. So I think if there's nothing else, thank you, Becky. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, James, Edwin, and Stacy for all your hard work. And we really appreciate all that you've shared with us tonight. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 8.2. We're going to review the 2022-23 draft fee resolution, and we're going to receive a presentation by May Malinik. Did I get it right, May?
Yes, Chair Oslin. Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome.
I'm just going to start my PowerPoint. Bear with me 1 second. Oops. Can you guys see the screen okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Sorry, my screen is freezing a little bit. Okay. Good evening, commissioners, colleagues, and members of the public. Today, I'm presenting the Parks and Community Services update for the 22-23 fee resolution draft. As part of our preparation for next year's budget, City staff completes a fee review to determine any necessary adjustments. The criteria used to set these fees falls within 3 main categories. 1, completion of fee surveys and market research of both our neighboring Tri-Valley cities, along with any like facility cities along the 680 corridor. 2, factoring the increase of area prices compared to the previous year. This amount, known as the Bay Area Consumer Price Index, aka CPI, is published by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The CPI for October 2021 is 3.8%. Many maintenance or professional contract amounts for the Parks and Community Services and Public Services Department correlate with this price index. The third and final criteria for determining fees is considering any increase in staffing costs due to mandated minimum wage and our internal relationship analysis. Similar to the format used when this fee resolution draft was initially presented to the Parks Commission Finance Subcommittee on January 26th, we will now review the proposed fee changes together, and you are welcome to ask questions or for clarifications if needed at the end of each slide. So fee number 1 is advertising fees for the performing arts brochure found on page 36. There is no anticipated impact on revenue. This is a new fee. Were there any particular questions for fee number 1? Great. Fee number 2 is an all-inclusive special event fee for combined building and park use found on page 36. This is also a new fee with no anticipated impact on revenue. Any questions on fee number 2? Great. Number 3, outdoor fitness permit fee increase found on page 36. This is an estimated revenue increase of $250. This is an increase of about $1 from $17 an hour to $18 an hour for residents, and an increase of $1 for non-residents from 31 to 32. Any questions on fee number 3? Fee number 4, hourly rate adjustment for additional staff special event support found on page 36. There is no anticipated impact on revenue for this particular fee. We did modify this quite or a little bit from our last meeting. We did eliminate the special event fee requiring a recreation supervisor or program manager or division manager or director. And again, there is no impact on revenue for this. This is purely just the cost of salary. Were there any questions on number 4? For fee number 5, increased fees for banner permit application found on page 37. This is no anticipated impact on revenue. This is to increase the fee by $5 per banner from 80 to 85 per banner, and just $1 per pole, going from $15 to $16 per pole for our street banner program. Any questions?
I have a comment. Does it cost that much when we put like up banners and for the Christmas and everything? I didn't realize it was that costly.
I believe there is a fee, yes, to install our banners.
Well, that's what you're saying. You're raising the cost, but I was just wondering, how much does it cost when we do put up banners in our city? I mean, since this is to me was exceptionally, I mean, I just didn't realize it was that costly.
Kathy, don't you go through a vendor? Don't we have a vendor do this?
Yeah, I was going to help out. It's
Okay.
Sierra Display, and it's a cross. That's how much it costs. And there is a variable. If you're putting a banner up on a pole and taking one down at the same time, it costs you less. But if you're just going up and down, so they really charge you to bring that big bucket truck out and go up and down every single pole. And in this case, they also store our banners.
Yeah, I just didn't realize it was so costly.
Carol, we can hire you to do it if you want to climb on up there.
I don't think so. I just didn't realize it because I appreciate the banners that are up and when we have the Christmas ones, I just really appreciate them. I think they add something, but I just wasn't aware. So I thought, well, I would ask if that's really that expensive.
Yeah.
Any additional questions on fee number 5? For fee number 6, add a fee for renting the Walnut Barn picnic rentals. This is an estimated revenue increase of $240. This is proposing a new hourly fee for renting the Walnut Barn picnic rental area. Any questions on number 6? Okay. Fee number 7 is the removal of room classification sizes found on pages 39 through 42. No anticipated impact on revenue. This is simply just removing the classification by room size, such as small, medium, large, and grand. Any questions? For fee number 8, increased fees for indoor facility rentals found on pages 40 through 43. Anticipated revenue increase of $25,000. This would be increasing the rate by $10 an hour for the Fountain Room, $5 an hour for the Russell Room, and $10 an hour for Bella Vista. Any questions? For fee number 9, establish fees for the use of the City Hall Rotunda. This is also a slight change from our last meeting. This is a new fee found on page 42, an estimated revenue increase of $10,500 by establishing a new facility deposit and rental fee to rent the City Hall Rotunda. Any questions on this one?
I do. Chair Rosalind, shall I go?
You go.
Okay. I'm trying to retain some etiquette here. Okay. Was there any thought, because this is new since our finance meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Was there any thought to delineating between a nonprofit organization and a for-profit organization wanting to use it's a premier, wonderful facility, and I think it makes sense to try and generate some revenue there, but you know what I'm saying about the distinction?
I'm not sure. Kathy, do you know if there's a distinction on the user groups for this one?
Yeah, this one is interesting. This one did go to the City Council Policy Committee, and so because they were interested in potentially renting. So I want to throw a little background in on this. The thought process, of course, is that this would be a very special and unique place to rent, and they really modeled off of San Jose and San Francisco, and they are kind of a one fee location, if memory serves correct. And so at this point, we were putting the fees forward, and then we would plan to come back and figure out policies and how to operate it before we would actually rent it. So to the nut of your question, was there consideration of whether or not we should do that? It was considered, but at the policy and all those conversations, we ended with this kind of a one fee. Is that something that you feel that we should have?
I just feel I get it's a special place, and I understand it's a potential revenue stream. I also feel like City Hall is a tool to build community, and it should be approachable. It should be inclusive. And I just wonder if this is prohibitive for well-run, very useful nonprofits who are integral to our community to maybe have that access to that for something, an important community significant type of event, activity, or what have you. So it was just something that came to mind enough that I feel like we should consider the question. I don't know. I'd love to hear from my fellow commissioners.
Mm-hmm. As doing, I have my hand up.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
Working in nonprofits, all my volunteer services in nonprofits. And I find that you would have to be a very large nonprofit entity to even approach this, because I think it's just for the local nonprofits in our community, I don't think that they'd be able to, to even afford this. So I kind of agree with Heidi that I think that it should be addressed. That, I think that, nonprofits give a lot to our community, and I think that they should be considered with a different fee schedule than just this one.
Commissioner Ellicott Pesic. You're muted.
Sorry. I'd also like to have this be considered. We have a lot of really fantastic nonprofits in the community, and not a lot of facilities to do events. I think one of the questions I have is, how often do we even want it to be used? And if we really only want it to be used a couple times a year and we want it to be a revenue generator, well, then maybe we make it a little bit prohibitive and exclusive, I suppose. If we think there are more opportunities for it to be used, I do think allowing for nonprofit consideration would be very helpful. I wouldn't say below cost, but it would be nice to have that. And there are a lot of groups, I think, that might consider.
Can I ask, to dovetail with what Heidi's saying, is what would the relationship to, or I forget what we call them, Kathy, partnering agencies, or like the senior center or the senior foundation or the historic foundation, would they end up paying the same amount, or do they get special consideration because of their relationship with the city?
That right now this facility doesn't exist as one of ours, but in general, the foundations per their MOU get to use our facilities.
Okay.
So that's kind of part and parcel, but it's very feasible for us to provide that feedback to the city council as we move the fees forward, that the commission, if you end up endorsing all the fees and would like to see the addition of a nonprofit rate for the Rotunda, and then they can consider it.
And I would even get more specific. I don't know what the rest of the commissioners feel, but even shaving off $1,000 shows, shows support for the nonprofit community. Maybe makes it a little bit more realistic, although makes it so that they realize it's got to be a pretty special event to their organization to look at that as an option. So I don't know that we need to go too deep on our discount, but my feeling would be that we entertain at least some type of discount.
I wanted to comment on this too, because when I read this, I thought, who would want to rent it? I mean, I was thinking, who would that be? Is that for, in the city, it's usually some kind of a big, gala kind of event. So, yeah, I think I like where we're going with this discussion. I support everything that's been said already. And I thank you for clarifying, Kathy, because when we talked about the Walnut Barn, I was concerned about the Historic Foundation. Would they now be responsible for, paying the rental fee? But you clarified that. So thank you for clearing that up for me. So anyway, I like where we're going. I think nonprofit should have a different rate for the Rotunda. And I see one more hand, Commissioner Ellicott Pesic.
Yes, I would like to see that. And I agree with Heidi. It doesn't necessarily need to be all the way to the bone to cost, but a consideration. I guess the other thing I would throw in just to muck things up a little bit more is we have nonprofits that are based in our community, and we have nonprofits that are not based in our community. And I guess if I were prioritizing, I'd like to see nonprofits based in our community have priority. I'm certainly open to outside of our community, but if we need to prioritize, I think we have a lot within that we would want to give consideration to. And then I don't know how we feel about this, but I think it should be part of the thinking. A lot of the senior proms, senior balls, they sometimes go to the San Francisco City Hall Rotunda and do their event. I don't know whether this would be a great place for it, but if we think it would be, I think we need to think about what that means, whether that's an appropriate use or not, and what kind of limitations. But, I imagine galas, fundraisers, cocktail events, possibly a ball or a prom kind of a thing. And if we're considering that when we do set the fees or the requirements, thinking about, those possible events and what that might mean. I'm not advocating for any specific thing, but I think, as much as we might say, oh no, they don't want to do it locally, the fact is a lot of parents would prefer things be done locally. So we should have that in mind when we set this up.
Mm-hmm. And Vice Chair Keniston Lee. You're on mute.
And I said such good stuff too. No. I would say certainly as a first step, I wouldn't go the school dance route for sure. I think we need to test it out this way. But as far as the nonprofits and where they're based, I would give a caveat to that they be based in San Ramon or be shown to significantly benefit the community, the residents of San Ramon. We have organizations like Discovery Counseling Center or groups that we are heavily involved with in San Ramon and benefit from. So I would be a little more, have a little bit more of a broad stroke on that one. I don't want to belabor it, but that would be my suggestion.
I actually agree with that. I was kind of thinking San Ramon Valley, but I didn't know how to define that. But, however you would define it, Kat.
Yeah, I would do want to reiterate, you're kind of echoing some of the city council's thoughts on this, the policy committee, in that they wanted to be able to start having this fee or talking about it, but that we would have to have a very detailed policy that is far different than the existing policies for our facilities for this specific facility because of its unique nature and the importance of it being kind of that civic heart of the city of San Ramon. So I believe as that comes forward, you will see things that will kind of tighten down what can be done in there and what can't be done in there. So it won't just be a party room. It will be a very, very special place that would be available to rent for very, very special things.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. Is there any other feedback from May? On item 9? Nope. Okay.
Thank you. For fee number 10, increase fees for group picnic and aquatic picnic rentals found on pages 43 to 44. There's an estimated revenue increase of $3,500. This is increasing the fees by 3.8% and rounding to the next whole dollar. Any questions on fee number 10? For fees 11 and 12, both related to our 2 amphitheaters, the fiscal impact for the Central Park Amphitheater is an increase of $1,500 and then an increase of $1,000 for the amphitheater at Rancho San Ramon. Any questions on fees 11 and 12? For fee number 13, field rental grass field hourly fee increase found on page 45. This is an estimated revenue increase of $25,000. This is increasing the turf field rental rates by $1. Any questions on fee number 13? For fee number 14, outdoor rental hourly fee increase, including synthetic fields, field lights, and storage found on pages 45 and 46. This is an estimated revenue increase of $10,000 by increasing fees by 3.8% and rounding up to the nearest whole dollar. Any questions on fee number 14? For fee number 15, field and gym scoreboard fees for private rentals found on page 46. This is an estimated revenue increase of $2,000 by reinstating a daily and monthly rental rate for the use of field and gym scoreboards for private rentals. Any questions? For fees 16 and 17 related to our 2 theaters found on pages 47 through 50, there is no impact on revenue for these particular fees. This is increasing the house staff rate by $2 an hour and also increasing the hourly rate for the production manager rate by $2 an hour. Any questions? For fee number 18, permanent PA system fee found on page 51. This is an estimated revenue increase of $250. This is actually adding our Vista Grande room, which has a permanent PA system, and just adding it to our existing list of permanent PA systems or permanent PA rooms. Any questions? For fee number 19, San Ramon Olympic Pool and Aquatic Park and Doherty Valley Aquatic Center special event and lane use fees found on pages 52 through 54. This is an estimated revenue increase of $24,400. Any question on these fees? Okay. For fee number 20, increase hourly gym fees found on page 55. An estimated revenue increase of $7,500 by increasing all gym rental fees by 3.8% and rounding to the nearest whole dollar. Any questions on fee number 20? And for fee number 21, gymnasium special event fee found on page 55. This is an estimated revenue increase of $6,000 by proposing to add a gym special event fee rate of the special event daily rate plus the hourly rate fee. Any questions? Great. I believe that concludes our fees. So the steps following approval would be that this proposed draft fee resolution will be forwarded to the Finance Committee of the City Council for final review. Any remaining questions?
I see Vice Chair Keniston Lee has her hand up. You're on mute.
Twice I've done that. I wanted to say for the benefit of the group, as chair of the finance committee, generally speaking, the increases were either consumer price index driven, vendor driven in terms of increased costs on their end that got passed along to the city, or catching up on fees that we hadn't raised in a long time and probably should have. And so I'm prepared to make a motion unless there are other questions or comments from other commissioners. Oh, Miss Kathy.
I do see that you have public comment, so we should open.
Oh, yeah.
Before you.
Yeah, I just noticed that too. Christy, will you please open public comment?
Yes, I will. Caller, you're able to speak.
Hello?
Caller, you're able to speak.
We cannot hear you.
Caller, can you hear us?
You're on mute, caller.
Okay, then I will remove the permission. Maybe that.
So we'll close public comment.
Why don't you try one more time? I think we may be able to unclick her mute button.
Hello?
Hi, Keith.
There you
Yeah,
go.
can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. We could not.
Okay, so I want to speak to item 9. Regarding the charges, I understand all of your kind intention to give the nonprofits easier access to our city hall, but please keep in mind, not all nonprofits are the same. For example, Chan Zuckerberg of Facebook Meta, they have a huge amount of nonprofits, so much so that they're able to donate to election machines, voting machines, and different things, and it could become really, really shady if you simply define all people, who can enjoy the discount as nonprofit. I highly recommend that you identify the specific nature of the nonprofits that you are trying to support, because they have supported us, instead of just giving a generic narrative or term as nonprofit, because we know that there are going to be people who will surely take advantage of that. Furthermore, a lot of maybe organizations that we don't really want to come because it's a different kind of venue could also come as non-profit. So I highly urge the commission or the committee members to please be very detailed on your intention, lest that our facility be vandalized or prematurely deteriorated because of the people that we are allowing to use our facility. Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
close public comment. I don't see anyone else's hand raised. May, thank you very much for your presentation and all the details. Do we need to make a motion to move this forward? Yes. Do I have a motion?
I move we accept the report and recommend that these fees be forwarded to the Finance Committee of the City Council for review.
Second.
Great, we'll take a roll call. Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ellicott-Pesic,
Yes.
Vice Chair Keniston Lee,
Aye.
Chair Lopez, Chair Oslin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you again, May, for your presentation.
Thank
and
you.
your work. We now move on to item 8.3. I have 8:59. Would you guys like to take a 5-minute break, or do you want to keep going?
I'd like to just keep going.
Okay, is that good? Okay, Item 8.3, we have a gift of public art from Jagdish Joie, and we're going to receive a presentation by Adam Chow.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Chair Oslin and commissioners. This evening, we're going to be looking at a gift of public art from Jagdish Joyce. And so he presented an opportunity for the city to be able to look at this artwork and be able to accept it as a gift of public art. He approached us back in May of last year. It's taken some time to work its way through the process, but I'm glad to be able to bring it to you this evening. So Jag, as he goes by, as a student at DVC, he created the artwork that's in your packet based off of a project that he did for his photography class. And what the project was is that to be able to look around, be able to find things that you may not see in an everyday kind of passing by. And one of the things that he noticed was the utility boxes as you're kind of passing by. So he called this project Stop and Look, and the pictures that he took of the utility boxes specifically. But in post-production, what he had done is he created the photos in the background in black and white, and then made the color stand out, and also any utility boxes that had street lights behind them that had red lights, he colorized those as well for that stop and look effect that he has created here for us. And so what it is the series that he put together is a series of 10 photos. They are of the utility boxes that we have around Saramone that have been painted. They're several years old, but it's a great interpretation of those utility boxes. And so what he has asked us, what he's done is he's actually provided metallic prints of these. So though the prints that you see in the packet are black and white, well, actually they are color, but you cannot see the metallic finish that is on them. They are about a 6x12 size. So they're a little bit odd size, but they're perfect size to be able to put into the series. And so that's really the goal for him, is to be able to put them into a series of 10 to be able to piece them together. The Arts Advisory Committee did review this proposal and of the donation of art at their meeting last month on January 19th. They reviewed it for a number of different things. And so the first thing that they reviewed it on was based on the artistic merit, and they felt that the artistic merit had value. They particularly liked that it documented the temporary art that we have on the utility boxes. And as being temporary art, that artwork may not be there forever and is not intended to be there forever. So it's a great opportunity to be able to document that in a special way. And so that was kind of the nice thing about having a art project that showcases an art project, which is kind of interesting and unique in a way, and be able to also attribute the original artwork back to the original artist and also the photographer as well. So we're looking at a couple different things here, looking at attributing the artwork back to the original artist, and also verifying that the artwork is of artistic merit, and they did feel that that was appropriate. They also looked at site appropriateness, and that was regards to what the location is that we would want to have this artwork displayed. There was no specific discussion in regards to which location, because every facility has different wall spaces and needs and those sorts of things. And usually that is left up to the staff to be able to make a determination of that. The AAC did review and say that this would be an appropriate usage for public art to be hung in any of our city facilities. So that was the discussion they had, and they felt that was appropriate. They also looked at potential liability as well. And so there was no liability by attributing the original artwork back to the original artist. That was negating any liability regarding copyrights, which the city owns the artwork already anyway. So there was actually no issue in regards to that. So, but there's no potential liability there. They also looked at safety in regards to safety. There's no safety concerns, obviously, with photography, hopefully, crossing our fingers. And then also looked at cost of installation. The one thing that we would need to do is that we do have the prints. However, we would have to look at framing. Framing is looking at approximately about $500 worth of cost right there. And so what actually has happened recently is that the Arts Foundation has offered to pay for the frames and sponsor the frames for the artwork, should this be approved by the commission this evening. Let's see, the Arts Advisory Committee also looked at the cost of the maintenance for the artwork. That will be minimal, no maintenance generally for photography, and then any donor stipulations, which there were none. And so with those reviews, with those items that the Arts Advisory Committee reviewed, they do recommend that the Parks Community Services Commission accept this artwork, which is under your purview. And so with that, I will turn it over to you. You've seen the artwork within your packet, and then you can be able to discuss.
Great, thank you, Adam. I see I have a hand raised in public comments in our audience.
Okay, I'll bring in our public comment. Speaker on the public comment, you're allowed to speak.
Hi, I don't know why it always takes so long to unmute me, so I apologize for the wait. Okay, so I looked at the packet and I was trying to see the images of these proposed artwork. I don't know if Mr. Chow had privately shown the committee members what the art looks like, but from the public perspective, I certainly can't see them. So it seems a little bit fishy. Usually, if you want the public or the city to know whether they want to accept the art or not, the artwork needs to be shown. In this case, I don't see that. So I can't decipher if these are indeed the images that we want to be seeing day after day after day, you know, and especially it sounds more like it will benefit this donor more than the city, because the donor will be able to put on his resume that, you know, his work is accepted by the city. So I don't know, maybe we should charge him actually for promotion instead of, you know, thinking that this is something that's going to benefit us. I'm sorry, Mr. Chow, you have failed to present to me why we should accept this art. So put it simply, please convince us why. Thank you.
We'll close public comment. I see hand raised, Commissioner Ellicott-Pesic.
Thank you so much, Adam, for bringing this into the Arts Advisory Board for, I believe that was who recommended this forward. I love that we have the opportunity to celebrate 2 layers of artwork here. The original utility box artwork, which I am embarrassed to say, I can't picture it around the city. So I'm really excited to go see it now. So first of all, the artwork there was fantastic. And I'm excited that we have the opportunity to preserve it for posterity through these photographs. So we're having the chance to celebrate 2 layers of artistic work. Of course, the photos in the packet are not as pretty as I'm certain the final work will be in that metallic finish, which I'm excited about. I had wondered about getting a sponsor for the framing, so I'm excited to hear that you've considered that, because that could even be a business could sponsor the framing, and we can acknowledge with a small plaque if the Arts Foundation didn't, you know, thank you for supporting our city. So I love the idea of preserving it. I had thoughts like, maybe because I've got the Rotunda on my mind, I thought it would be really interesting to see this displayed, you know, possibly there, just because I think this is really special and unique to San Ramon, since it's art, it's photography of San Ramon artwork. I also thought it might be interesting to have it on a rotation, you know, as a parent that used to be at the El Costa Community Center all the time, or the Doherty Station Community Center, bringing my children to dance classes and all kinds of things. I love the idea of a level of rotation, but of course, and maybe the senior center. So I leave that to you guys, because obviously that provides extra work. I did want to just say one picky little thing. When I saw the cars in some of the artwork, the first thought I had, because this is just where my mind goes, are, you know, oh my gosh, are license plates shown? Is that when you were talking about privacy and legality, I was like, but you know, I see that that is not the case, but I will say that in some of these photographs, to be an art critic, I find the cars actually distracting and take away from it. So I believe this artwork is complete and finished and ready to be received. And in that being the case, I am excited about it. If he had some of the shots ready to produce that maybe didn't have all the cars or could Photoshop out of, maybe that's just, not realistic on 10 levels, because of course that is part of the reality. But I did find in some cases them a little distracting and looking a little less professional because of that. But generally speaking, I think they're fantastic. And I really appreciate the artist donating these and sharing these with us. And I hope with grace we accept them.
And Vice Chair Keniston Lee.
Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, most everything that Commissioner Ellicott-Pesek said, and I'm not so distracted by the cars. I think that's sort of part of the utility box reality, is that's their environment. So that doesn't bother me so much. I just want to say thank you to Jagdish for doing this. I think they're very powerful images, and we're very proud of our utility boxes. Erica and the team worked really hard to get that project off. And I do agree with you, Commissioner Ellicott-Pesek, that this is a great way to memorialize, the first set of those, utility boxes. And by the way, we've been in many communities, and I don't know if you'll agree, I'm sure you will, that we have some very lovely utility boxes, like the artwork on them. It's really good. So I'm very pleased with this. And I just wanted to say thank you to Jagdish for doing this, and we appreciate that.
I echo that as well. Please, thank you, Jagdish, for donating these to the city. And I'm looking for a motion.
I would like to, approve this promotion of the art.
A second? Do I have a second? Commissioner Ellicott-Pesek has her hand.
Second, yes.
Great, we will take a roll call. Commissioner Lopez Lucy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ellicott-Pesek,
Aye.
Vice Chair Keniston Lee,
Aye.
Chair Oslin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Adam. All right, moving on to number 9, staff reports. 9.1, recreation program and community services reports.
So we had quite a few things in that report for you this evening. The one that I do want to draw your attention to, because we're quite excited that we have been finally able to execute the contract for a second farmers market on Sundays at the Doherty Station Community Center in that parking lot. We've been working on that for a couple of years. Brad Morris has spent a lot of time, and we're just so excited that that'll be coming our way, and there'll be big festivities and openings and all that. So just wanted to make sure you drew your attention to that. Does anybody have any questions on any of the items that are in the report?
I just wanted to say how awesome the Strumming Seniors ukulele thing is. I think that's fantastic. And you know what? This is the kind of out of the box thinking that I love that our department does. And I was talking to my husband about it, and his mom is in the South Bay at an independent living facility, and they do harmonica. So I thought that was a neat idea. So keep up with the innovative programming. I love it.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
And I see your hand up, Commissioner Lopez Lucy. Was that from before?
Oh, that's now in
Okay.
The Open Space Advisory Committee hiking series. I see that participants were guided to the Iron Horse Trail and entered Lake Annabelle through the access gate across from Target so that you could walk around the Annabelle Lake. I know one time when my husband and I were trying to walk there, we couldn't get through. So is that open there, that gate from Target, so that you can take that walk? Is that open all the time?
I am not certain. I'm going to have to get back to you with an answer on that, because I don't know that I could say for certain if it is or isn't. So I'll check for you and get back to you.
Yeah, because we did that walk and we couldn't get through to take the tour, to walk around the lake is what we, hoped to do, but you couldn't do it. So that would, when I saw that, I thought, oh, well, that would be great.
So when I've walked it on the weekend, that gate has been open. But the other gate that's more on the AT&T side to the parking lot, that was closed. And that often is open Monday through Friday, that gate, so you can enter there, but the other gate was open. I think, I don't know. So Kathy, yeah, that'd be interesting to find out. I'm excited about the farmer's market too. I think that is awesome. And I think the only other thing I marked was just the loss in revenue of rental revenue for indoor facilities. Do you think that's due to Omicron and just?
Yeah, we had another rush of, we had all these things rented and we were excited and we're like, okay, ready to go. And then Omicron hit and, it's like, we've been really forgiving and tried to reschedule and say, okay, we'll give you the refund, but we're going to hold it as a credit for a future rental. But it was really tough. And so they're starting to come back up again. So we're seeing people, and as news of the masks maybe not need to be worn, then we're getting a lot more interest. So I think it was just a reaction to it.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask Commissioner Lopez Lucy, maybe she can give us a little information on the crab feed since that's in this report, or did you want to share that later, or am I jumping the gun?
Well, I would love to share it with you, except our treasurer is on vacation.
Oh.
And I can't get I have all my expenses that I haven't even been able to submit because he left the day after the crab feed. And I've had to deposit monies, but I can't give you an estimate at all because I don't have all the I have the money going in, but I don't have all the money. And also I don't have, I could add it up, but with the PayPals. So there's a lot of avenue there that I just can't give you an estimate. I mean,
it was a wonderful event.
I was going to say, was it successful?
It was wonderful. Yeah, you guys did a great job, Carol.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I've been doing this and this one is I really enjoy this, but this one was very difficult because of the COVID that you've had, that you couldn't go one place to get all your items that you needed. I used to go to one place and I could get the plates and the cups and all the food and all that and go to one place. This time I had to go all around, even had to go to the warehouse in Hayward to find butter. And they were the tiny little things, but I thought, oh my gosh, we have to buy 700 pieces of butter, little things. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know which, they were so very small that you had to use more than one of those. So we really don't have a lot of butter left over that I have to store. But it was more difficult because of all the things that you had to go through for COVID. And we sort of gladly limited it to 150 people because the tables then were, set apart and people didn't feel that they were so crowded. But I think everyone had a good time. And I think the crab was exceptionally good because it was got from the wharf at 5 a.m. and delivered to us at 2:30 in the afternoon. So that's about as fresh as you can get.
Oh.
So I will say that the Cali crab that is at the market has very excellent food and will specifically go. That's where they go to get their items that they sell.
Great.
So I enjoyed it, and I even got to sit down and eat my crab.
Yay. Well, thank you for that report. And sorry for putting you on the spot.
That's okay.
I did have one other question. I see Kathy popped off about the pickleball. Are we going to be adding that back to Iron Horse Middle School?
The pickleball, we have pickleball in the gymnasium. And I think that during COVID, that particular population who play pickleball did not want to come out. So they weren't feeling safe in that kind of situation. So I think, again, with the Omicron variant kind of waning, we'll be able to bring that back in again. So yes, we'll continue with our pickleball.
Okay, great. Like to see it on that report there. Going on to 9.2, maintenance and operations reports. I see Vice Chair Keniston Lee. You're on mute. 3.
I am so off my game today. It's not even funny. Kathy, on the skate park vandalism, do we have cameras there?
There is a camera there, and they are looking at potentially replacing that camera with a better camera because I'm not sure how great the quality is on it. So the police and public works are working on that right now because we've had an increase in vandalism in that area.
Yeah, or even, I know we don't want to spend a ton of money, but even having a couple of different cameras and signage that says "Smile, you're on candid camera" as a deterrent. I think we need to step up some of our deterrent mechanisms here if we can.
Yeah,
I had hoped that it being right next to City Hall, but of course these are hours after hours, right, where it's probably happening.
yeah, we did start closing the skate park earlier for at least a few months in an effort with signage to try and deter and get the people who are doing it to have a little peer pressure. We have not had as much since we did that. I don't think that's a long-term solution. I think that was a short-term fix. And like I said, Public Works and the police department are working collaboratively to come up with better cameras and better solutions.
And Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
That goes sort of along with the Crow Canyon Gardens pickup from the that was brought to our attention that there was things in the creek and everything. And I just think that maybe that we do need to pay a little bit more attention to our parks, that we make certain that we're on this thing, because removal of couches and 15 bags of debris is quite a lot of things that really shouldn't happen. So maybe we just have to be a little bit more cautious, and some of us, maybe volunteers, bring it to the attention of when we see that happen, things like that happening. So that was kind of sad, but I had saw it for myself that those things were there. So it was just kind of sad.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. The primary area down there, when you first come down, it was not located there. It was at this other end that it is not, doesn't have as much
right,
moving through it. And so you are correct. That end specifically probably does need a little more attention.
Yeah.
I see a hand is raised in public comment, Christy.
Yes, do you want to allow the speaker?
Normally don't have public comment around the staff reports. So
we just want to let the speaker know that it has to be related to this topic. So I will open public comment in 1 moment here.
hello.
Speaker, you're allowed to talk.
I'm sorry, you didn't even call me for 9.1.
Do you have some comments that you'd like to make regarding 9.1 and 9.2?
Yes, I do, but then you didn't offer the public to comment for 9.1. You went straight to 9.2, so I don't know. Am I able to speak now for 9.1 and 9.2, or just 9.2?
9.1, please go ahead.
Okay. I appreciate your making the efforts to try to acknowledge all the holidays. The fact is, on your page 5 of 9 for 9.1, it doesn't, unless I am cognitively participating in your discussion, I really have no idea what all these colors mean. So I'm wondering if there is something a little bit more obvious to the public for February celebrations. And a lot of these lights are very similar in nature. What I really care about as an American is that the President's Day, there are actually 2 presidents, and their names are not spelled out: George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. I really would like our city to please acknowledge their names. We have many, many presidents. Not all presidents are the same. So I really would appreciate it as an American that if you would please be specific in your ways of honoring the presidents that we feel are extremely special to our identity as a nation. Thank you. That's my 9.1. Now, do you want me to proceed with 9.2?
Please do.
Okay. For 9.2, it actually makes our city looks really wimpy and vulnerable and accessible to have those vandalism, because that location is right next to our city hall. So then that brings back to, if we open up our city hall for rental and stuff, how confident are you that our city hall, inside the city hall, Rotunda, I'm talking about now, will not be subject to vandalism? I am scared the heck out of, the fact that if once we open it and, the accessibility is a little bit more public, that we might sustain even more severe vandalism, such as actual broken glass and, burglary, stuff like that. For the caliber of our city, I pray and I hope that you guys will not be weak and easy on these crimes, or they will continue to happen. It will start to expand east and west, and very soon everybody will be pooping on us, and I don't appreciate that. So please be tough and crack these cases now. Thank you.
Close public comment.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 10, update on city council reports. Vice Chair.
Okay. Yep. Okay, there was meeting on January 25th. The second public hearing was held regarding the redistricting. And as you may recall, they're looking at the various criteria, equal population, federal laws that might impact district lines, whether an area is contiguous or not, communities of interest, whether there are understandable boundaries, and compactness. So that's your 2-second primer on redistricting. It's a very interesting process. So now that they've had 2 public meetings, they can draft initial plans, initial maps for the community to consider. And then they'll have an additional review, as I understand it, on February 17th. And then they plan final selection by March 22nd, if I understand correctly. They also had another public meeting to renew the San Ramon Valley Tourism Improvement District, which, as we know, is Discover San Ramon. It's a process by which it is, I guess, approved unless there's objection. It's an objection-driven process. The final public hearing on that will be March 8th. And the last item at that meeting was to receive the Arts Advisory Annual Report, which we had the pleasure of receiving. The February 8th, there was a special meeting and a regular meeting of the City Council. The special meeting had to do with campaign contribution limits. And essentially, the City Council their guidance to staff was that we do nothing with regard to campaign limits. And essentially, when you do that, that means that the state applied limits go into effect, and that's $4,900 per contribution per election. So the feeling was it takes the enforcement pressure off of our city, our folks, our city clerk, and then it's up to the state to really enforce that. So there were a couple of different options that they considered, but they're going to, that is my understanding, that that's their guidance to staff. That was sort of the consensus. Then they had their regular meeting. They passed a resolution designating specific lanes in the Travari community as permanent permit parking. I guess there's been a lot of problems with people parking on the streets and street sweepers not being able to get to where they need to clean. And it's just been turf wars and this and that. So they did pass a resolution making it permanent permit parking over there, restricting parking without a valid permit. They also passed a resolution adopting the San Ramon Walking District guidelines. And I did want to just briefly mention, there still are some concerns, I think, about sort of who ensures implementation of the district plan. And, it was discussed how, there's some things that will fall in the purview of planning. There are some things that will fall into the purview of the planning and parks and community services. And so they discussed that. Let's see here. What else did they talk about? I think that was it. Those were the biggies. So since we're late, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 11, committee reports. We'll start with you, Commissioner Ellicott-Pesic.
Thank you. I believe I have two committee reports. One is Teen Council, and we have our upcoming Teen Council meeting next week. I think this is really fabulous. They said that their technology days are back at the senior center. And this involves, I love this. This involves helping the seniors with technology, whether it's setting up their iPhone, helping them connect the photos to the cloud, or whatever it is. They have about 3 to 4 volunteers for 2-hour slots. They weren't able to do it last year because, I believe, of COVID. But they're planning to get them up and running, and they'll, again, uploading photos, upgrading the phone, all kinds of things like that. So they're going to be doing the technology days. I really hope to see some great, awesome images and write-ups on their new Teen Council Instagram account.
Yeah.
I'm really, really excited about, which is the second major item. And I think obviously there's, some structure around this, given that it is a city, it's under the city umbrella. I think there's a great opportunity for the kids to work within a governmental agency and knowing how to responsibly use social media. And this is something I deal with all the time in my various volunteer jobs, and including teens in doing this. The Tri-Valley Job Fair is also coming up. I believe it's March 5th in Dublin from 12 to 3. And this will be a great opportunity. There'll be workshops, mock interviews, people hiring, etc. So they may still, I'm not sure if they still need some adult volunteers to help out. If so, you may be getting an email or two. And I think the second thing would be the programs committee. Is this the appropriate time to?
No, this will just be any of the library, the teens.
Yes. Okay. Yep. No. So that's all I have for you this month.
Great. I know they've been wanting that Instagram account, the Teen Council, for a long time. So this is a big triumph for them. Definitely. All right, Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment from Elegant Pesca that I am on the Teen Job Fair Committee. And yes, we do need more help because we need to help people with registering the teens and with passing out the, it's called their lunch, the pizza and a package of cookies and a soda or water. So yes, we do need more help with that. So if any of you know that you could help from 12 to 3 o'clock, I certainly would appreciate your call or help. And I know for mock interviews, we still need more people to do mock interviews, and especially men. We have mostly women, but if you have your husband or a friend that could do that, we would greatly appreciate them. That's for certain. So thank you.
Right. Do you have any reports on?
But I do have a report from the planning. There were 2 meetings. The one in January was on the Bishop Ranch 1A, which is across from the City Hall. And a presentation was made by the Belmont, it's right by the Belmont Senior Care Facility. So it's just right next door. It would be to that. This is only a proposal so that they get feedback. They're planning a 405 family units, a 7-story building that's 85 feet tall. The units would surround the parking so that you wouldn't see the parking, and mostly would be 1 and 2 bedrooms, some studios, and a few bedrooms with 3-bedroom units. Great discussion was about the 7 stories, the 80 feet high, the design of it, and the mass transportation problem with everything being in that particular area of Bollinger and trying to get on the freeway. As I said, that's a presentation. It's not an application, but that's getting feedback. So that was the big thing of that meeting. The other main item was the application for the senior assisted living adjoining the Harlan House. And it's basically on detailing of zoning. And so it's been referred to another meeting for that issue. The meeting in February was mainly about the Hampton Inn revised parking lot on Omega Road and Deerwood Road. It's a 5-story, and it will be coming back to meet the specific plans for the city. So that will be coming up again. But the owner was there and felt very positive that he would be able to meet all the requirements. Also, Cindy from the planning department reviewed the new laws pertaining to housing, and there was quite a few of them. And I must say, I'm glad I'm not on the planning and have to learn all those new laws pertaining to the housing now. That's very complicated. The city will need 5,111 units. Some 2,000 are already in place. Some have been approved, but no permits to build as yet because of the lack of people doing construction in the building materials. They're looking at where Golden Skate is now, and that development could have approximately 2,300 units. So there'll be meeting for the rest of the year. An ad hoc committee is to meet all the requirements that have to be done by January 2023. February 15th will be a joint meeting between the city council and the planning. So those are the highlights of planning, but they do go on for a long time.
Thank you.
And then if you would, EDAC was this afternoon at 4 o'clock. So we had speakers on the transportation. Chris Week was one of them from the Sunset Development, and Darlene Amaral from the city. And they gave about services that we have for transportation. They're trying to eliminate single car usage as much as possible, of course. They work with a lot of people. 511 Contra Costa program. I was not aware of that, but they're working with that they have many things on the table there. Bishop Ranch has the hydro station, which is, we have that one in San Ramon, which is they're referring to, and they're trying to increase people taking advantage of that, especially buses to go. They do have 25 to 30% of their people have returned to work at Bishop Ranch. They have 30,000 employees and 60 businesses. I thought was interesting. They had the autonomous bus that they had for 2 years trying out, but that Las Vegas was one day ahead of them. But anyway, that's back on the back burner because they had some problems with it. And so they need to continue that and upgrade their software on that. So now they have another bus that just goes around picking up, in the whole center there, but it's not an autonomous bus. Mm-hmm. And they're working with buses, with large corporations to have buses come in and like take the people to Google and like that, so that gets a lot of people off the road. And they have, of course, the buses that directly have people coming right to the center there. And so they're also, the EDAC themselves are, have a questionnaire out to most real estate businesses and our large real estate businesses also. They're giving they're going to give a 2-week to respond to the questionnaire. I'm not privy to all what it says, but they feel it's what they're trying to do is to make sure that we're taking care of the businesses in our community. So those were some of the highlights. They did say that July and September of 2021, that the funds of coming into the city were basically where they broke even, whereas they, in previous to that with COVID, had been going in the red. So those are my highlights for both of those, planning and EDAC.
Thank you. Thank you. I just have a quick report on the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. We had a meeting on Monday the 7th and 2 items on committee business. The first was senior needs assessment. They formed a 3-member group task force subcommittee that's going to oversee the calendar of their senior assessments going out into the community. They've got a timeline that they've established, and 3 of the members will be working on that to implement that. And then the last item was about the senior programs attendance update. One of their goals for 2022 is to serve at the welcome desk at the senior center since they're committee members. So they're going to get some experience sitting at the desk and working with the seniors that come in. So they're going to, that was one of their goals and their commitment to understanding their clients there. So that's all I have for the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, and the open space is next Monday. So nothing to report on that. So that completes our committee reports. Item 11, item 12, commission member items. Anything for the good of the commission that anyone would like to put forward?
I was just gonna say there was a wonderful Lunar New Year celebration this past Saturday at City Center, and it really humanized City Center, and it was so well attended, and just really was probably the first real show of community in that space that I've seen at that scale. And it was very exciting for our community, I think, to see that diverse group come together to celebrate. And it was just, if you didn't get a chance to go, it was kind of a neat thing.
Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know, and I started to see it on Facebook. So I wasn't informed of it. So I'd like to maybe suggest that it be advertised in other areas too. But
I mean, there were the neat thing, we had our different communities have different downtowns, right? And the neat thing about this is they had a big stage, and this was sort of a good utilization of this space. Good. Where, there were tons of people watching on the bottom level, tons of people all around on the second level looking down at these wonderful performances. So it really was a great demonstration of how this particular facility could be used to build community in San Ramon. It was really neat.
Nice. Yeah, the pictures were very colorful, and yeah, it looked great. Well, I'm glad you were able to attend. I think that wraps up our meeting for February 9th, 2022. And we'll adjourn at 9:41. Thank you, everyone.